I always think of, come on, Nasha, let's go!
Ready, Nasha? Let's go!
Hi everybody, I did it. I actually talked to a person. A big day for old Ashley. Big thank you to Doka who set this all up with his good friend Sean. Two great guys. I don't care what anyone else says. This was my first ever interview and I did it with Zoom and let's just say lessons were learned. Enough stalling though, let's get to the wicked, Doctor Who fans get it, the wicked Sophie Aldred. So, I won't lie, I'm a little starstruck. I've never talked to a celebrity of your level before.
Ah, that's so nice.
So, it might be a bit of a strange interview for you. I'm not going to ask too many Doctor Who questions.
That's absolutely fine.
So, something a little different. So, how are you today, Sophie?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I've just stepped out of the airing cupboard where I'm recording an audiobook.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness, you're always busy, busy, busy.
I am usually busy, busy, busy. Yeah.
Just for anyone on my channel who doesn't know, you're Sophie Aldred, English actress, presenter, and author, best known as Ace from Doctor Who, alongside Sylvester McCoy. And you recently returned in The Power of the Doctor, was it?
That's right, yeah, with Jodie
Yeah.
Whittaker. Mm.
So maybe one Doctor Who question. What was it like going back to Doctor Who after so long?
Oh, it was a thrill. It was just so great. And it wasn't that different to how it had always been in the past. I'd assumed it was going to be very different because it's such a long time between. But actually, what I realized was that it's always up to the person who's playing the doctor. That's what drives the show. And Jodie was so welcoming and so lovely.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit about your kind of early career. So I know you kind of did Doctor Who first, but your presenting kind of happened first. But what was it that made you passionate about children's presenting? What was it about that world that appealed to you?
I'd always wanted to do it ever since I was young, and I watched Blue Peter on BBC One. There were only two channels anyway in those days, and I used to practice presenting stuff, and I used to love making things. So I'd watch Blue Peter, and I would make things, and I've just always enjoyed creating stuff, I guess, out of cereal packets and washing up liquid bottles and they always called it sticky back plastic on Blue Peter because they weren't allowed to use the brand name. Um, but yeah, I always loved doing that. In fact, one Christmas list I found somewhere is it says, things I want for Christmas. It's sellotape, crayons, things like that, things to make things with, scissors.
Yeah, all the classics when we'd watch those TV shows, you had to have them.
Yes.
In Ireland, we used to have fairy liquid ads where it'd just be a child waiting for months for the fairy liquid to run out so they could make some of
Oh,
those.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Probably had the same one in the UK. Speaking of some of your shows, so some of these I hadn't heard of, but there were things like Connor's, Melvin and Maureen's Musicograms, and Tiny and Crew. But I do remember when I was younger seeing Sophie Socket. Was that your character,
Oh,
Sophie
yeah,
Socket?
that's
Yeah.
right.
What was that experience like being Sophie Socket?
Well, that was great. It was for the children's channel, so it was a satellite TV program. It was very early. Was it B Sky B or something like that? Anyway, I I knew a presenter myself when I was growing up. She lived down the road from us, a woman called Carol Chell, who'd presented a program called Play School that all grown up with, and I ended up babysitting for her actually, and then she helped me to do my audition speeches for drama school and things like that. So years later, she said to me, "Oh, I'm presenting some preschool children's programs for the children's channel, but I don't want to present anymore. So I want to produce or something." So she said, "Will you come and do the presenting?" So I went along, and by this time I'd done a lot of presenting. And I did a very straightforward preschool children's program, reading stories, linking programs, doing stuff like that. And then she left, I think, and they decided to do something a bit different. So that's when Sophie Socket was born, and I've still got the costume somewhere.
Oh my goodness. You need to break that out someday. A Sophie Socket
Yeah,
return.
yeah, exactly. And it was I had a song which was about guessing what was in my pocket.
Ready, everybody? My name is Sophie Socket. I mend the rat can rocket. There's something in my pocket. Can you guess what it is? No! Well, just reach into my pocket and look. It's feathers. Did you get the answer?
And I had all sorts of things in my pocket, and I had two little puppets called Dreeb and Droib, and they would try and guess too.
I love the puppet
It was really
characters.
good fun.
In Ireland, we're for some reason we're really good at children presenter puppet characters. Dustin the Turkey, Zig and Zag.
Oh, Zig and Zag. Yes, I remember
Yeah.
Zig. Yeah. Well, these were sort of roughly, there were some older kids' versions of Dreeb and Droib. I can't remember what they were called now. But anyway, the puppeteers were the same, Marcus Clark and Helena Smee, who do
Yeah.
a lot of puppeteering. And they were so they you always have to have a very good relationship with the puppeteers because they're obviously groveling around by your knees somewhere under a desk with their hand up like this. So Helena and Marcus and I got on very, very well, and they were always trying to make me laugh. So I remember when I said something like, "Well, guess what's in my pocket?" And I'd say, "What do you think?" And Marcus one day he said, "Is it an accountant, Sophie Socket?" And then he'd say things like, "Is it a fire engine, Sophie Socket?" Just stupid
Yeah.
things. It was really just trying to make me laugh. It was great.
Do you have any memories? What was the strangest or the funniest thing you had in your pocket?
Oh, this the oddest thing was a live mouse.
Oh my God.
It's a little pet mouse, and it was handed up to me by the person who was handling the mice at the counter like that. And I got this mouse. The trouble is, of course, mice don't stay still, so I had it in my hands, and it was threatening to run away. And I thought, oh my God! If so, I had to kind of try and hold on to this mouse. Didn't like that at all. It started biting my fingers. So, I was trying to sort of do this presenting thing with, oh, isn't it lovely? Oh, what a lovely little mouse. And I had blood dripping down my fingers, you know.
That would be good footage to find. The lovely mouse just biting you, going crazy.
Yeah.
Another show you were on, before we talk about Beano and Dennis the Menace, a show I loved as a kid was Sap. For anyone who
Oh,
doesn't know, Sap was like this strange Charlie Chaplin silent movie crossed with a live comic book. And I think your character was Minnie the Magician. What was it like working on Sap?
yeah, Minnie the Mini Magician. Well, I'd done a lot of work for the company who produced it called the Media
Yeah.
Merchants. And they filmed down in Maidstone in Kent. And they'd seen me doing, well, what the Sophie Socket stuff turned into. And they said, would I like to do this character? I was only too delighted. Very cartoony, as you say, very comic book. It started off the program, didn't it?
Yeah.
Zooming it with a cover of a comic, zooming into different characters. And my character, Minnie the Mini Magician, was completely silent. So big gestures, which I loved, a lot of sort of clowning. And then I would wave my wand, it would go ding like that. And then I'd hold absolutely still. And then they'd either sort of take something out of the shot or put something in it and then start again. And in the edit, it would look like something magic had happened. So that was really, really lovely as well to do that. I remember I'd had my first son, Adam. I think he was 3 months old, and they allowed me to bring him down with my husband to the
That's
studios.
nice.
So he'd be in my dressing room. And every time he cried, we sort of stopped and, I'd go and give him a quick feed or whatever he needed, and then back to Minnie the Mini Magician. So that's my memory of that.
When he was a little older, would he have really appreciated the show? Because it was very bright, it was very colorful, it was like big expressions. It seems like perfect for like 5, 6 year olds. I know
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was around 6, 7 when I watched it.
Oh, yeah, that's just the right age, isn't it? Very,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect.
The sets in it were kind of beautiful as well. Like they weren't like elaborate, but they kind of looked like expressionist paintings come to life. It was almost like you were stepping into a painting. I watched one episode where it was with a bed. You looked like you were in a Van Gogh painting and you were making the
Oh
bed
yeah.
disappear and come back, and just it was all hand painted. It was really amazing looking, but it looked very physical. Did you get a chance to be was it very choreographed, I guess I'm asking, or did you kind of improvise a little bit and just kind of come up with some
Uh,
stuff on the spot?
I kind of improvised really. I think that the actual moments of we'd kind of choreograph what I was going to do. But as long as I ended up with going into a freeze, um, yeah, I mean I love physical, big
Yeah.
comedy and stuff. And so for me it was great because it was so different from the straightforward presenting I did or the acting in Doctor Who and in theatre. So for me it was something I've always loved to do something different. If people say, "Oh, can you do this?" I go, "Yes, I'll have a go."
What do you think it was about the 80s and 90s that made children's presenting and children's shows just a little bit more fun? Was it just that there was less of them, or was there something extra?
In my experience, it's always to do with the people who are producing it and the kind of what you're allowed to do as well. And also, it's not so easy nowadays to come up with a bizarre idea like a comic book.
Yeah.
Or, for example, like Melvin and Maureen's musicograms, these two people work in a musicogram shop and they produce music for a goldfish's birthday or Super Duper Man's theme tune or whatever. It's not so easy to come up with an idea and somebody to go, oh, yeah, let's do that and do it. It has to go through committees and, be rubber stamped and da 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 da. I don't know. I mean, it's unfair of me to comment really because I haven't, to be honest, watched much children's TV in recent years. But I do think that there was a real delight when we were all doing it back in the late 80s and 90s, where the people really cared about what was being produced for children, particularly at the BBC. I met so many people who had this passion for giving children high quality children's TV. That went on, many of the people I worked with on Melvin and Maureen's, and they went on to, I mean, like there was Kay Benbow who became the sort of head of CBeebies, and she was just like so passionate and so knowledgeable. I think it was that really.
Moving on to maybe your voice acting work. So, when did you first step into voice acting? And was it just like a natural transition? You were doing children's presenting. Did stuff come up where you had to do voiceovers? What was that process like?
Well, I first started doing voices when I was young. My brother and I used to play with our collection of teddies and dolls and things, and they all had personalities and they all had different voices. My Tiny Tears, she was very bossy. She spoke like this, and his Teddy, his who was always the hero, and he was very heroic and would speak like this. So it started there really, and then we loved. I've always loved accents. He did as well, and we love to hear, different. I don't know. I'm fascinated by accents, and I think they're wonderful. I wish I'd got one. Really, I'm so boring. But then, on the other hand, my accent means that I can actually adopt, different accents. I'm not very good. Somebody was asking me actually today at a dance class I did earlier. She said, because I said, oh, I'm doing this book at the moment, and I've got to do South African and Welsh. And sometimes they're talking to each other, and there's four different South African characters, and all talking to each other. And she said, "Oh, do me a bit now." And I said, "I can't just. I'm not very good at just coming up with something. Not like John Culshaw, who's an impressionist, or he
Yeah.
can just think of. I have to sort of have the lines in front of me and be imagining the character and the storyline.
Yeah, I find the Welsh accent very difficult. I lived in Wales for years, and if they're from the valleys, someone thought I was crazy, but they agreed with me when they thought about it. I think the Welsh accent is like an Indian accent, but faster. When you get
Yeah,
deep into
yeah.
the valleys, they're like, but.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's very often people kind of go into an Indian accent if they're trying to do a Welsh accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Welsh accent though. It's kind of relaxing, even though
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
yeah. Sometimes I
Mm.
didn't understand it if it was very someone from the valleys. Cardiff area was a bit easier. But you've voiced a lot of characters. You were in shows like Noddy in Toyland, Bob the Builder, my favorite, Bananas in Pajamas. I think one of the later show versions of that. But on my channel, we talk a lot about the Beano and Dennis the Menace. Were
Mm.
you a fan of the Beano growing up? Did you know about it? Or maybe you read some of the other comics? They used to have comics for girls, Bunty, Mindy, things like that.
I loved the Beano, and I was always a bit jealous because it seemed that my brother got the Beano. We had a subscription, so he got the Beano and I got the Dandy.
Yes.
And I didn't quite understand why. I mean, I like the Dan. I like the Dandy. I loved the cow pie, and but there was something about the Beano that seemed cooler. I don't
Yeah.
know why. And I've still got his collection of old Beanos in our attic, actually. Um, and uh, and then when the boys were little, and then I was Dennis the Menace for a while. They got a subscription to the Beano as well. It all went a bit wrong, I think, when just as you were saying about cool presenters, I think the Beano started to try and be a bit cool at one time, and
Yeah, it
they
did.
started sort of doing manga, big eyes and sort of manga type characters, and you just think, no, don't mess with the format, guys. This works. But I never really. I didn't do Bunty and stuff. I was a tomboy, so that was like, oh no, why would I do that when you got the Beano and the Dandy? We did a bit of Whizzer and Chips as well.
Another classic.
Yeah. And then actually I did get when I was an early teenager, Jackie did the rounds at school, and I would get the odd copy of Jackie now and again, which I loved. And in fact I was actually in the Jackie magazine.
Really? Do you know the issue?
I don't actually. I got it somewhere. It must have been 19. It was when I was in the sixth form. I don't know why, but a photographer asked if it was through a friend, and they said, right, we need some teenagers to come and be in one of those photo stories, you know. So there's me and some friends of mine from choir, and then school friends. It's my friend Sophie Miles, Lynn White, Ian O'Sullivan, and me, and uh, and we're hanging around Blackheath in our school uniforms, which I don't think we were even wearing by then because we were in the sixth form. But there is a photo story. So that was probably about 1979 or 80.
I may try to find that. I'm trying to collect as many comics as possible. I've got some bunties. I'm finding it hard to find the Jackies though. But
Oh, cool. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I'll look it up and see if I can find it later, and then
Yeah.
I tell you exactly which one it is.
That would be
Hmm.
fantastic. It's funny what you said about the dandy. It was the same for me. I don't know why. Beano was cool, dandy wasn't. It's a running joke on my channel. Every time the dandy comes up, I'm like, ugh, the dandy.
Because it is a good comic,
It's
isn't it?
funny, it's good, yeah. It's just not the Beano, and that's its biggest
Yeah.
problem. I
We
think
got the annuals as well,
yeah,
which
the
was
annuals, they still make the annuals, so the Dandy's around
uh,
in annual form, but only annual, unfortunately. Talking about Dennis, so you voiced the 2009 series. How did you approach creating the voice? Because you said you don't just come up with it on the spot, you have to think about it, kind of develop it. What kind of stuff did you do to develop your Dennis voice?
the funny thing is I don't take time to develop it. I do come up with it kind of on the spot, but when I'm actually thinking about it in situ in front of a microphone. So it was lovely because we recorded as an ensemble, which I always prefer because you kind of bounce off each other. And I worked with, there was a really talented cast. It was Rob Rackstraw, Bob Golding, Teresa Gallagher, and was it Joe? Yes. Oh my God, I've forgotten her name. She's such a good friend of mine. Anyway, and we all knew each other anyway, and we still do, and we got on really well. And Teresa and I think Rob they were playing my parents, I think, and they started doing northern accents, and I did Dennis. I sort of thought oh, Cockney, I'll do a bit of, or estuary, um
Yeah.
a bit of Jack the Lad, sort of like. And I mean, although technically speaking, they'd have all had Scottish accents, really. So I started doing that, and we recorded about 3 or 4 episodes, I think, in that day. And it went off to the BBC for approval. And they came back and they said, why are Dennis's parents? Why have they got northern accents? And Dennis is obviously from London. So then I had to go through and I had to re-record all those episodes with a northern accent rather than the Cockney.
Okay, Dad, time to elevate your foot. And
Apply a cold compress.
coming right up. Nasher? Ouch!
Ouch!
So that was quite funny. But I think we worked on it a little bit at the time, till we got all of the voices. That's what you usually do. You get into the studio and you play around a bit and you find the right one.
I was going to ask you as well, once you have the voice, how difficult is it to maintain it? So I know other voice actors, they sometimes have a phrase or even a sound that kind of snaps them back to it. Do you have any
Mm.
techniques for your voices? Like a word you would say, for example, for Dennis, he's kind of northern, you would make a noise just to kind of get you back into it. Or was it just all natural?
I always think of, come on, Nasha, let's go.
Ready, Nasher? Let's go!
And that
Perfect.
gets me into that. But there was a book I was recording, which was a Sylvester and Ace story, a Seventh Doctor and Ace story. And the main other character in it was Irish. That's right.
Oh,
And it was so hard because when Sylvester's doctor and this character were talking to each other, I did have to resort to going Scotland, Scotland at the beginning of his lines, and then copper tea for the Irish character.
that's funny. Cup of tea. Perfect. Do you have a favorite episode? So I think you were in the first season of the 2009 Dennis the Menace. Do you have a favorite episode you recorded? One that was maybe you found it funny or it was just very fun to record with all the cast together?
Oh my God, they were all fun to record. I can't even pick one out. It was such a laugh. We had a real laugh. One day though, we needed some farting noises.
Okay.
And it happened to be no, burping, that's right. And it happened to be a day, the boys who were, well, if it was 2009, my oldest would have been 9, and William, my younger one, would have been 6. And they had come into the studio to see what was going on. And Frank, our wonderful American director, who knew nothing about well, they've got a different Dennis the Menace in
Yeah.
America. But he loved it, and he was a great director of animation. He said to the boys, would you like to do, we need some people to do some burping. Would you like to go in and do the burping? So they were really, and they had the cans on in front of the microphones. And my younger one, William, he's a real performer, he was so serious. It was just like the most serious thing he'd ever done, just doing burp after burp after burp into the microphone. It was hilarious.
That's so fun. Were your kids impressed that you were Dennis the Menace? Would you do the voice to them to kind of make them laugh?
I mean, it's funny with the boys. I don't think they've ever really been that impressed with what I've done. I mean, I think they are secretly, but
Yeah.
for them, it's like, well, that's just what she does.
Yeah.
That's what she does. And they had other friends whose parents were actors as well. So it seemed like, oh well, she's off to do that today. I think they like the fact that I got free copies of the Beano for them, that's for sure.
Oh, that's nice. I'm
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah, yeah, they got the perks. They
Yeah, all the good stuff.
they like that. Mm.
Is there any other Beano character you would have loved to have voiced? Would you have done a Minnie the Minx, or would you have liked to have been one of the Bastry kids?
I'd love to have done Minnie the Minx. Yeah, Minnie the Minx. I love her. And Roger the Dodger as well,
Yeah.
That would have been good. Bash Street Kids, always a favorite of mine. I wonder if who'd I'd have done. Let's think. I mean, I love Plug, but he's probably got a bit of a nerdy voice, or a bit of a sort of
Yeah.
pop voice. Um, and who's the one with
Oh,
the
Wilfred. Wilfred.
Wilfred? I love Wilfred. Yeah, so cute.
You could do kind of a muffled voice. His voice is
Yeah,
always covered.
you, you could do a voice like that. He probably sound a bit like that.
There There are always rumors of a Minnie the Minx live action TV show. Who knows? Maybe if they ever make it, you could star in the Minnie the Minx TV show, maybe as the mom or other characters.
I'd love that. That would be great. I suppose it's a bit like Daisy Dares, going back to Zap,
Yeah.
that character. She was meant to be a bit sort of like Minnie the Minx, wasn't she?
There was a few characters in Zap. There was one, it was like maybe it was Daisy Dare. It was like the bold child with black hair. She always reminded me of Ivy the Terrible. I always
Yes,
thought,
that's right.
yeah, I thought they just
Yeah.
stole Ivy the Terrible from the Beano. This is her, like a toddler having a tantrum and causing trouble.
Yeah, she was. That's exactly who she was. Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest challenge in voice acting compared to performing on screen and on stage? You said earlier you kind of worked with them in the studio, which seems a lot more natural, but are you ever in a situation where you're all alone, just you and the microphone? Is that more
Mm.
difficult?
Oh, a lot of the time you're on your own, yeah, and you don't know what the other voices are going to quite sound like. But I don't know. I find voice acting remarkably easy, which is great. I'm very lucky that I'm a good sight reader. You have to be a good sight reader if you voice act because you're trying to get your all your performance into your voice. Plus, you've got to read the lines very naturally, as though you're just saying them. So you have to be a good reader. I suppose sometimes it's quite a challenge in commercials where they don't quite know what they want sometimes,
Yeah.
and you have to sort of do the same thing over and over and over again. And then they kind of pick on something, and you think, oh yeah, like, have you ever seen Toast of London?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes. It's a very
Yeah,
funny show.
I mean, it is so like that
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, hi, Clem Fanning. It really is. And you have to sort of stop laughing. Um, but I do remember once, I won't say what it was for a commercial, and the guy kept coming through and saying, yeah, could you emphasize this word? So I did, and I emphasized that. And then he said, yeah, that's great. Now this time, could you emphasize this word as well? So I did that. And then in the end, it was all like that because he wanted me to emphasize everything.
Oh
And
my God.
it was like Toast of London. Anyway,
I feel I've seen commercials like that, like, you need this product.
yeah.
Very like fast, aggressive.
Yes.
With voice acting as well, you said it there. I do a little voice acting occasionally, and I think the hardest part is reading and sounding natural. Is there any
Hmm.
techniques you do before? Maybe reading the script a few times, doing a voice warm up. How do you kind of get ready before you do like maybe because I people have told me it can be 2, 3 hours sometimes of straight recording. How do you prepare for that and keep your voice ready and natural?
I'm so lazy. I'm a very good sight. I don't need to prepare. I mean, I do when I do an audio book, I read the story through
Yeah.
quickly to see what accents there are. And, if there's any pronunciations like this one at the moment, I had to ring my Welsh friend because there's a couple of Welsh words in there. And then he recorded them on my phone, on a voice note. And when I come up to it, I listen to him going, saying what it is. No, I'm very lazy. I don't do a voice warm up, but I do drink. I always have this brilliant tea, which is called Throat Comfort. Uh,
Okay.
and I have that there, and that's nice. And I have lots of water. I drink loads of water.
Yeah.
And then I always find, I don't know about you, but I find if I'm doing a book or something long, after about half an hour to an hour in the morning, I'm ravenously hungry and my tummy is rumbling a lot. And then when I get up, I'm very faint and I think it's because I'm breathing a lot. You're
Yeah.
breathing a lot more. So yeah, I always have to go and have something to eat.
It's interesting when I've recorded, I cut out all the breaths. For some reason, I breathe 20 times more. I'm like, I say a line, the Beano, and then I'll say another line, and every time. What are you think the biggest creative inspirations you've had? So people you've worked with, or maybe people you've admired. You said you've always loved children's presenting those shows. Maybe there was a presenter you loved. What do you think are your biggest inspirations?
Or for me, well, Val, John, and Pete were my triple act on Blue Peter
Yeah,
and I just loved them, and it was a great thrill because I know Peter Purvis now because he was also a companion in Doctor Who, which I didn't know,
oh wow.
and so to meet him in later life and become a friend of his is amazing. Um, I did love John though, John Noakes. I thought he was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them, I occasionally I'll see something, my social media will throw up a sort of a clip from Blue Peter occasionally or some presenting. And I'm actually amazed at how posh the voices were because of course accents change all the time. And so looking back at the 1970s and 80s, people were speaking like this on children's television. It was so funny. I mean, you wouldn't find that anymore.
Did you ever have the opportunity to be a host of Blue Peter? Would that have been like a
Oh,
dream?
it would have been a dream come true. Well, I remember I was doing corners and there was one series I couldn't do. So I think I was filming Doctor Who or something else. And they auditioned for and they got Diane Louise Jordan. And that was her first TV job. And then she auditioned for Blue Peter and she got that job as well, and the rest is history. And anyway, years later, I bumped into her at something, and I said, "Oh, I always wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter. I'm so jealous." And she said, "But that's really weird." She said, "Because when I went for my audition, that Lewis Bronze, who was the editor then, he said we're looking for somebody like Sophie Aldred to
Oh my
play
God.
Peter." And I thought, why didn't they ask Sophie Aldred?
Maybe because you were probably quite famous at that time with Doctor Who, so maybe they thought you were
Could
out of
be.
their league. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, maybe they thought I was too busy doing
Yeah.
other. And to be honest, I think I'm probably glad that I didn't in the end because I did so many other things. And I'm so glad that I had that real variety of acting, singing, theatre. I don't think I'd have had that so much if I'd got known for Blue Peter as well.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was researching you, all the different things you've done, like serious acting, singing. Now you're an author as well. You write books. You've kind of done almost a little bit of everything. So I guess it leads into this question now. What advice would you give to young people, young performers hoping to get into voice acting, get into TV presenting or acting? What kind of advice would you give them today?
I would say for voice acting, get good at reading, practice to camera, practice reading to your brothers and sisters, which is what I did when I was little. I used to read to my brother all the time till he begged me to stop, in fact, because I would go on and on. Um, and yeah, I think do as much as possible. Get as much experience in school plays, in theatre groups nearby you. Just do everything, and then also learn some skills. So if you are musical, learn to play an instrument or two. Just do singing as much as you can. Join a choir.
Yeah.
And then things like, random things. Learn to drive. I know that sounds silly, but learn to drive. That's really important. Maybe even horse riding. Just expand your skill set. Juggling. You never know when you might be asked to do something. And I mean, actors traditionally have said, yes, I can do that, and then have come a cropper. But it's much better for you, for your stress levels, if you can do a lot of things
Yeah.
first and enjoy them. What's not to love about learning to juggle and things like that?
I think the driving one's a very good one. I've known people who've gotten extra roles or small parts that they've had to turn down because they couldn't drive to the location they had to go to. Being able to drive just opens the world a lot more than people probably realize.
Yes, absolutely.
Has working behind the microphone as a voice actor, do you think that has changed the way you've gone into your, let's say, regular acting on screen? Like, is your voice a bit more enunciated now when you do normal acting, or do you have to kind of switch between them? This is acting, it's not voice acting.
I don't know. My voice has definitely got lower, I
Yeah,
think. Um, but that's kind of age as well. Um, yeah, I have to be careful not to enunciate too much because it doesn't sound natural. When
yeah,
I'm reading a book, you have to go a little bit slower and enunciate more. And so, yeah, when you're actually doing something naturalistic, you need to be able to do it in a natural way. Not so you're mumbling.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, that's my beef nowadays with a lot of young actors. I mean, we're old. My husband and I sit there. What? What did they just say? We have to have the subtitles on sometimes. And neither do you want to sound like the Queen. You don't want to
Yeah.
sound like that. But there's a fine line between because basically you're telling a story, and if the audience can't hear what that story is, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, of course, makes perfect sense. Looking ahead, if you could, or maybe I should say looking back, but if you could play any voice or play any role in TV, voice acting, films, in any medium, what role would you have loved to have played?
Oh, that's such a hard one. I'd love to play a baddie. I
Oh,
have,
that'd be fun.
but the devil gets all the best tunes, let's
Yeah.
face it. I'd like to play a seemingly nice person, and then actually you realize that they're not very nice at all.
Like that Harry Potter character, the very sweetly teacher who was
Oh,
torturing the
yeah.
students.
Yes, that would be good.
You've had such a varied career. Is there something new you'd love to try? So I've already said you've done voice acting, writing, presenting. Is there anything you haven't done maybe that you would have loved to have tried or love to still try?
Oh my goodness. I like the idea of directing. I've directed a lot of children's work, and actually I directed a one-person show in theatre a few years ago, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, maybe a bit of directing
Yeah.
would be good. But I
What?
love, I always remember when William, my youngest, was small, my mum and we took him to see one of those ballet films, when they do live, and it was from Covent Garden. We were sitting there, and he was he is a very good dancer. And he sat there sort of twitching all the way through. And then in the interval, my mum said to him, "Isn't it lovely? Don't you just love watching the ballet?" And he said, "I don't want to watch it. I want to be in it," he said. And that's the trouble I find. I just want to be in it.
Yeah, you want to be part of it, in the middle of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, finally, just one more question. Is there anything you'd like to share with everyone listening or watching? Maybe a project you're excited about or a message to your fans?
Oh, well, yes. I'm very excited about a couple of things because you mentioned the books. I've just brought out the one book, the Ace Jacket. It's all about the badges on Ace's jacket. And I'm doing another one where it's for cosplayers and it's going to be also for people who are not interested, but it really does. It's like detective work. It goes through why my jacket changed such a lot. Why did the badges change and everything? So that'll be coming out next summer. And then something I'm working on right now is I've never done a podcast.
Oh,
And I was asked, why don't you do a podcast? So I thought, okay. And I've teamed up with a couple of people, including a guy called Paul Carmichael, who's very, very talented man. And I'm doing a podcast. We're launching it on the November the 23rd, and it's going to be a cross between a drama. I'm going to be orbiting the Earth in my spaceship, time scooping people up to interview, and there's going to be a bit of drama involved as well. Talking to fans. I've got on my spaceship. It's powered by a clapped out old reactor, which is powered by Nitro 9, which was my explosive of choice in Doctor Who. And there's a rusty clockwork robot called Hobbs as well on board. And anyway, it's great fun. And it's called Sophie Aldred's Ace Odyssey. So
ace.
yeah, look out for that.
I like it. Most people, when they do a podcast, they're just two talking heads. You've made it this big production. It sounds like very interesting, very dramatic, very fun. It
Lots of
sounds great.
effects and music, and yeah, it's going to be fun.
So I think we'll probably finish up the interview, but I actually have one more question that just popped into my head while talking to you. So, Sophie, what's in your pocket? Have you anything exciting in your pocket
Ah,
today?
oh, let's see. Gosh, how boring. I've got a tissue in case I need to blow my nose when I'm doing my audiobook. What about you? What have you got in your
I've
pocket?
got a pack of tissues
Oh,
just in case.
tissue snap. That's great.
So thanks so much, Sophie. I can't believe I got someone as famous as you to come on my YouTube show. It was really nice talking to you. Your voice, I knew you were going to be eloquent, but you were very eloquent. So I'm kind of looking forward now to that new podcast. And if you want, let me know. I can even like send some links around when it's on, kind of share it, kind of get some word around. But
That would be
yeah,
great. Thank you.
thanks
Lovely.
very much.
It's been great to
And
meet you. Thank you.
yeah, great to meet you too. I hope you have a lovely day.
Yeah, you too, Ashley. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Bye for now. And there we are, my little chat with the very lovely Sophie Aldred. Thanks again to Duca and Sean. Hopefully the occasionally glitchy audio didn't distract too much. I did my best to fix it, I swear. That's all for now, but maybe in the future I could interview other people and talk more Beano. And old Ash can only dream.